Okay, so we're in Chav Dalam at Bays. Let's read it again from the top because we're in the middle of trying to figure out how we're going to be able to carry in these areas. We got so let's just review it quickly and then we'll get into the Rashis and figure out the resolution. So he Chav Dalam at Bays about 8 lines down, 7 lines down. He Chav Pum Nahara the Chadgisa v'Pasach Lamasa. We had this back lot that was closed off to any real. There were no houses that were using it, so it was just sort of sitting there as a back lot, right in between this this whole different series of places. V'chad gisa v'pasach l'shvil shel kramim. One side. It was open to a mavli that was open to the Shus Rabbim. On the other side, it was open to a road of a vineyard that was open. And that road of the vineyard, which did have some homes in that vineyard, as we pointed out yesterday, was open to the riverbank with a 10 tefach deep drop to qualify as a wall that, in a sense, closed the road of the vineyard. So the road of the vineyard clearly was surrounded on 3 sides, but it was open to the Rechava. As the Movi was closed on 3 sides, with a Tzuras of Pesach right in front of Wilshire Boulevard, they made a Tzuras of Pesach, the 2 side walls, but it was open to the Rechava, which was more than a base Sasayim, rendering it not able to be carried in. So Amar Bai Hechinevit. So Bai says, what are we going to do here? Levid le mechitza gudinahara. You want to make a mechitza on top of the riverbank and make a clearly visible extension, which would somehow serve. It would serve the kramim, the road of the vineyard, and as well serve as a vehicle of closing up the base of Sam. The real goal is to do something to the karfeif, to this open the rechava, this open area. The unused area, which is large and was more than a base of Sam, and therefore cannot be carried in. So, if you want to make a wall for the kerem by building it on top of the riverbank and somehow having that effect as well through some kind of a agav type of process, it would help affect the ruchav as well. Well, that doesn't work because it doesn't get off the ground, no pun intended, to really do anything. He says, "Lavele mechitza good in a hurry." You want to make a mechitza on the riverbank? Ain't also mechitza gal mechitza. You can't do anything like of that nature. You can't make a mechitza on top of another mechitza and have that function any which way in a significant way. You already have a mechitza, so it's overkill. You want to deal with the other side, so forget the riverbank. The riverbank is already taken care of, but let's make it Tzuras Pesach on the side of the kerem, which is open, the road of the kerem open to the Rechava. Let's close that off, and by closing it off and allowing you to carry inside the Shvil Shel Kramim, that would help to also, in a sense, close off the Rechava. That also doesn't work. Why? Because also Gemalim Shanyalei. The camels are going to come in and basically destroy everything. So those 2 things really don't serve you anywhere, and that's sort of where we left off. And then we said, let's do the Rashis up to this point to see. So we know it doesn't work. We don't know yet what will work. The guess would be you do something on the other side with the Movi with Wilshire Boulevard there, but let's see. That we don't know yet. But let's just catch up on what the issues here are. Let's see here. We have Shvil Shel Kram Diyarin Hayabar. Right? Rashi said we'll start with that Rashi. The road to the vineyard had people living in there, so we'll see about that later on. Why he throws that in? Hey Chinavid. So how are you going to function here to make this a place that you can carry in? L'mishinu l'kulu, to really allow all of the places to carry in their respective areas. Shirachava zu karmelisi. This rechava is a problematic karmelis. V'yoseres kol hamavui v'esashvil sheish, and it prohibits people carrying in the mavui, right, on top up there, and it prohibits the. Yeah, I guess, okay, that's a nice picture of the camel knocking over the Tzuras of Pesach, I guess. Yeah. So he says Vioseres Kalamovi, and it's also going to prohibit everybody in the Movi to carry. There's a shvilsh. Why? And also in the road of the vineyard.
Morning, Rabbi.
Good morning.
Sorry, I'm late.
You're not late. You're early.
Out of curiosity, what time was he making this morning?
There was no minyan this morning. It's going to be at 8:00.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. Okay. So let's proceed. Yeah. She says Rashi says you can't carry in the Mavli and you can't carry in the road of the Krumim of the vineyard road because you've got it's both of them are open. Okay. Sheyesh shlosh mechitzos. It has 3 mechitzos. So on one hand, yes, it's very well enclosed. The Haguda, the Nahara, Mechitza Mayasi. The reason why it has 3 mechitzas is because the riverbank is itself a valid wall, as we mentioned yesterday. Shigov Asar, 10 tefachim high. Avarochavas Rasan. So even though each one has a wonderful enclosure of 3 walls, okay, and they're both closed, they're all both then now open to the Rechava, that Rechava will be the problem. Avarochavas Osrasan. The Rechava prohibits you to carry in those areas. They're completely open. There's no other fencing in the road or in the Mavli to consider closed off. So something just like something is open 3 sides and open to Wilshire prevents it unless you do something. You need a lechi, you need a korah, you need a Tzuras Pesach. You need something to close it off on the 4th side, and that's true for both of these areas, which are not closed off on the 4th side, and they're open to an area completely open. There's no even quasi fencing in that 4th area. It's completely open to a place which is also to carry. Okay, and that which we said back in the first parak, that if the mavi opens ends at a rechava and it's totally open to that rechava, you don't need anything. But when we kefas sedira, okay, that's in a situation where it was surrounded for living purposes. Okay, and it had people living there. To the discussion there about whether there was an Erev amongst the people living in the Rechava. Okay, so that's when a Rechava is part of your living area and it's enclosed for that purpose. That's all fine and dandy. That's not a Karmelis. That's an extension of Rishus HaYachid, and therefore that would not be a problem for the Mavi, as was learned in the first parak. Of Rechava Karmelis, or a Rechava that is a standalone, problematic, prohibited area, like this Rechava, which has a den of a Karmelis. It's a big Rechava, it's a big lot. That lot has no livers there. There's no people living in that lot, and it's way too big to qualify as a karfeif, which is small enough to be able to be carried in. It's too big to carry in. Therefore, avrachava karmelis also g'damrina by he shmaitza bika mikan or bika mikan. As Gemara there discussed about an open field on one side and an open field on the other side. So this is going to be a problem. You have to resolve this closure, this opening, and find some kind of enclosure that's going to make it either separate or hook of ladira or something. You have to do something to rectify the problem, because right now you can't carry not in the road, not in the rechava, and not in the mavli. Okay, so right now we're 0 for 3, and we like to have at least 2 of the 3 for sure. It'll be nice if you can carry in the rechava as well. Let's see. So what was Abayi's question of what we're going to do? Is kulam. Okay, what are we going to do to allow all 3 to be used? Because now the people of the city wanted to use these areas. That it should be considered surrounded for the purposes of residential purposes. That it should no longer be seen as a karmelis, because we know that when you have a surrounding area as big as it might be, no matter how big it might be, if it's hook of fladira, if it's surrounded and walled in for residential purposes, that's all fine and dandy. He v'kul mutarin, that it and all the other roads and openings to it should be allowed to be carried in. Raminu le'el. Okay, we said earlier, right? It's not so simple, right? We already established, this is all recent history. The last couple of days, we've established that you want to change the status from being low hook of ladira to hook of ladira. we know that it's not just snapping your fingers and rub a dub dub. You got to actually do something serious to make a non-hookah fladira, rechava or karfeif, now be seen as hookah fladira, surrounded for the purposes of living. Okay, v'amrinu le'el hookah flubsof pasach lo mahani. We already said that if you first make it a hookah for deer, and then you want to open some kind of opening to make it usable and functional as a residential area, that's all fine and dandy of what you want to do. Lo mahani, that's not enough. Simply opening up and saying, now we're living here, and you bring your umbrellas, and you bring your mishpacha magazines, and your chairs, or whatever you want to do, and you totally turn it over internally, and you make a door there that you can come out, it's not enough. This thing was never hookah for residents. It was hookah for not residential. So you got to do something significant to make that change. Or in the third wide line of Rashi's, second wide line of Rashi, says, and this had a fence, a chashav, a walled, stone fence surrounding the back lot. It would have been a major construction job when you have a nice chashav wall, like he draws in a diagram, a nice brick wall, and now what are you going to do? Tear down the brick wall 11 amas and rebuild it a couple of amas, and that's a major job. Okay, and Thanksgiving weekend, nobody's working. Okay. Okay, ushvil. And it was very hard to now redo it, make a new fence that people now will be living there and using it for different purposes from here on in. And that it should be a category of you made an opening and then you also surrounded it, like Shmuel says. That's what you need. To get to that level of what Shmuel says you need would have been very problematic and very costly. So they're all trying to figure out a way. Let's do this in a happy way that's easy and smooth and works. So Abaye so far told us what doesn't work. What will not work is building a wall on top of the riverbank. That's okay. That's what you call adding, nothing to something already, because you're already there. So it's overkill. It's an irrelevant overkill that's not helpful. You want to make it source of Pesach at the end of the Shvil Shel Kramim, to close it off in that way. That would have been good, except for the fact that the camels are going to come and knock it out. I guess because of its narrow nature, camels are going to come by and knock out the Tzuras of Pesach. It's not going to be a stable Tzuras of Pesach. So what should you do? So back to the Gemara. He says, Ela Amar Abaye. Okay, so Abaye says, no, I'm sorry, we're still not finished with the Rashi's the old Gemara. Navala mechitza shekanim. You want to make a mechitza of reeds, nice and cheap. You pick up for a couple of cents, a bunch of cheap 2x4s of reeds that come out of the ground, and you want to put that right on top of the riverbank and consider that you did something. Agur dinahara klema leve shvil kameisif al harachava. Let the road of the vineyard be considered an addition onto the lot. Okay, to allow the rechava and the shul to be considered one entity. The dira, okay, and so the goal would be, okay, in other words, if we can make a mechitza that's a valid mechitza, that the road should be for the purposes with the das adaita dira for the purpose of living dilshtamshu mehashta b'nei shvil b'ruchava, so that the people of the road, by closing it off for living purposes, like you have those houses in. This is probably one of the reasons why Rashi said there are houses in the vineyard. So if I close it off in a valid way to the riverbank, that'll also be considered closed off to the rechava. Because once I do something constructive and significant, it could serve more than one purpose. And it'll also, in my mind, my goal is to not only be able to carry in the kerem, but I'll also be able to merge the rechava with the vineyard road, and let's all carry in that entire area. Okay, the people living near the road of the vineyard should also be able to now use the rechava. Kilo of dinle rechava gufa ledira. that it should be considered a fencing in the rechava for the purpose of residential, to qualify it as first you made the opening and then you made the wall, which is the goal, right? You can't make the opening after the wall. The wall needs to be there up there for the purposes of hookah fladira. So by now making this new mechitza by the riverbank, that will serve as it'll do a lot. It'll accomplish a lot and allow you to carry the rechava. Well, it's all nice. It's a nice thought. And it's a fancy lumdis that once it's a wall agabe the kerem and it's and it's closed up for residential purposes for the people of the vineyard, I can also now consider it closed up for the rechava. I haven't done a thing to the rechava walls. All I've done is built a wall on the riverbank, but through lumdis, it'll be considered a wall for the rechava as well. It would have worked in principle, except there's one problem. Ain't also mechitza agav mechitza. Given the Guda Gavaya Asara next Rashi, since the river bank was already 10 tefachim high, Kol Mashem Mesifra LaHagvos Oisa Mechitza Atzma Have Oisa Mechitza Atzma Have. Any addition is an addition to that very same wall you already have. So you take a fence, you make it from 20 feet to 30 feet. It was a perfect fence at 20. So what have you done by adding 10 more feet to the fence? Shrei im haya magbil kol mechitza harachava ladira lo mahani at shifrotz lo pirza hosarta v'yachzav vigdal ladira. The only way it would have worked, again, shim haya magbil kol mechitza harachava ladira. Right? Let's say you would have decided, you know what? Let's add layers of bricks to the rechava itself. So let's take a bunch of bricks and let's add it to the rechava and make that brick wall higher. Would that have done anything? Would that be called now being hookah fladira? No, because you already have an enclosure that's hookah not fladira. So you can't change it by simply an overkill attempt. Okay, lo mahani at shifratz bo pirtzo or sarta. You would have had to first nullify it by breaking the wall down to make a pirtza, a break, which would have prohibited carrying v'yachzav idoladir, and then you'd have to refence it for the purposes of residential. So, nice try, but that's not going to work. How about the other mahalach? Levelate tzuras a pesach hapuma deshvil shakramim. You want to build a tzuras a pesach like the diagram shows at the end of the road of the kramim. Let's make that upside down U, or I guess it's a ches. Right? Let's make that ches, which is a tzuras a pesach, 2 poles and a nice beam coming across. And that should work. Well, no, that won't work either. He says the pesuach l'rechava that would be open to the lot. The migud mahani l'shvil. Okay, since it would work for the road, for the vineyard road, shol yeh paretz l'rechava. Right, that Tuzar Pesach would have worked to make the people in the kramim carry. That would have allowed the people in the kramim to carry because now we're closed off. Right, what do you do with any mavi? Right? How do you close off any mavi? Either with a korah or lechi or a tzuras pesach. So by making the tzuras pesach, that ches would have worked for the people of the kramim to be able to carry in their own area. And once it works, one second. Shaloye parts or chavashafil the migu the mahani l'shvil, since it would help for the road, for the people near the road. Shaloye parts or chava, that it should not be considered open to the chava. Shafil pesuach l'shus rabim. He even had it been open to Wilshire Boulevard, this road of the Kramim. It's not. It's only open to a Carmelis. But even if it be open to Wilshire Boulevard, which is Rishus Rabim Mayilo, okay, it would work to close it up, right? Migu, the Mavli's work all the time with the Tzuras Pesach to close it up. Even less than that works for Shus Rab. Lahani Nami L'Rchava, once it works, it's a Migu process. Once it works for me to carry in my own domain, let it also work. Lahani Nami L'Rchava Li'oso Tosefezu Heka Fladira. That once that's enclosed for my purposes in the vineyard, let it also work to enclose the Rchava for residential usage as well. So in other words, once you got something going, you got once the engine started, the engine can work for a lot of other things, even though, maybe intuitively you wouldn't. How does this Pesach going to change that whole wall? It does change the whole wall because it does do something for the people of the vineyard. So it also is able to do something for the lot. Trouble is that ches is not going to last. Gerat Ches has got maybe a 1 hour lifespan before the camels come in and knock it all out. Okay, so right. So why did Abaye not like it? Osagamle habon lishtois b'neir derech mavi l'rechava misham l'shvil no. Right, they're on their way to the river, so they're going to go to their goal is to go through the camels need water. They're going to go through the Ches into the vineyard road into the riverbank and start drinking from the Mediterranean or.
That's a simple fix. You just make it either wider or taller or both.
Well, then you got to cut. Then you got to cut vines, to make it wider.
I don't know if the problem is height or width for the camel.
Width. Well, let's see. Yeah, probably more width than the height. He says, one second. Yeah, it doesn't say.
It can't be wide enough for a camel to get through because the camel had to get through to get to the river anyway. So the only restriction is the height. So if you just made it high enough.
Yeah, but wide enough to get through doesn't mean that it's not going to bump against the sides. If it's just, especially if there's two camels on the, going in different directions, and I guess,
This isn't Rishus Arabi. That's two camel widths. We know that two camel widths is Rishus Arabi. So we know it's not Rishus Arabi.
Okay, we have one. Let's see. Shadjanle, we have one more Rashi that will hopefully help us. Shadjanle, the camel's going to come and knock it down. Pesach Ashvel Tsar Lehen, the opening to the road of the vineyard was narrow. V'yakshav Hudokon, and now he's going to push them. As it was narrow. So if you have a narrow opening for a brick wall, nothing's going to happen. But if you have a narrow opening, for a Torah Pesach, which by nature is flimsy, it's going to come knocking down. It's going to happen. So therefore, we don't have any yet legitimate approach to how we're going to start carrying in this whole area, this whole beautiful, complicated area. So what do you do? So Elam Rabbi, let's go back to the Gemara. So we're ready to move ahead in the Gemara. Elam Rabbi, Levid.
So if you had no camels, this would work.
Yeah.
What you're saying?
Yeah.
Except for the camel.
Right.
So if you brought the camel its water, that would also work.
I mean, but it was a reality. The camels were using that road to gain, to get access to the water. The camel owners, so you couldn't change.
The donkeys.
Well, yeah. Okay, so maybe donkeys don't need water that much, but let's see. So what should you do? How could you rectify this? So we sort of nullify the whole vineyard aspect as far as working for us. Let's try the other side. Let's make a lechi, as you see in number 94, at the opening of the road of the Kerem. Okay, so now no longer it's Tzuras Pesach, and a lechi could be, I guess it's Tzuras Pesach because it has to hold the top, needs to be a little bit thicker. A lechi could be really, really thin, and if it's so thin, apparently it's not going to be impacted by the camels. Okay, so it's just one little lechi, and therefore the mahanya l'shvil shel, once it works to close off the members of the vineyard and their homes there to be able to be carried internally, in this area, right? Like we said before in Rashi, if I can get the migu rolling, the engine started, that engine, once it starts and works for something, it can work for other things as well. So once it works for the inner area, it'll also work for the rechava as well. To which, let's just do Rashi. The mig lechi hano it's ba'aretz, it's stuck into the ground. V'avyav mashu, its thickness is literally nothing. It's a mamish nothing. Vein gemala noigenba, and the camels will not touch it. They'll not reach it. So it's really not going to be a big deal. It's not going to be a big deal. Okay, it is what it is. That's what it says. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Okay, it's how does it work? The migud, the next Rashi, the migud the mahani l'shvil the taltalbo the loavi hasha parts the karmelis. Now that I'm no longer open to the rechava because I have the lechi, as insignificant as it is, it's good enough to close me off. Like we know, every lechi or korah closes me off to the prohibited area, like Rishus Harabim. So certainly it's going to close me off to the karmelis. Mahani nami l'rechava. It's now able to help me for the Rechav as well. Leo Yisrael Yehekef Fudira, to be considered now surrounded for residential use. V'yatirenu taltalba. Okay, and be allowed to be, and now you're allowed to carry in the Rechava as well. Ubalav migu loy mishteri. Had you not had a migu procedure going on here, that would not be enough to close off the Rechava. The Pesach shebein Rechava l'shvil lo haya yosem eser. In other words, you need the lumnus, because I guess the question is, what do you need migu? Just I have a lechi. I closed it off. So lechi, forget the krumim. The fact that I closed it off for the Rechava, that should be good enough. And Rashi is saying, no, it's not good enough, because what did the lechi do? You didn't need to be closed off for the Rechava as a closure. You already were enclosed in the Rechava. You already had many walls. You had enough walls around you, and those openings were not 10 amos wide. If they're more than 10 amos, I hear you, but they weren't 10 amos wide. So I was already closed. Since I'm already enclosed, I don't need any further enclosure. So your enclosure doesn't work. So that's what he's saying. He says, "Ubalav migulo mishteri." Had it not been for the migu, you would not have been able to carry in the lot the pesach shebein Rechava l'shvil, because the opening between the lot and the vineyard road lo yosem yeser was not bigger than 10 amos. V'chol kama destam sosam le'ladira, and as long as it's closed for its residential purposes, lav klumi. Okay, as long as you close an already enclosed area for residential purposes, you haven't done anything. Because every opening was considered really a proper enclosure. And it's closed and standing without your lechi. So your lechi is what? You're dropping water into the ocean, shkoyach. What are you doing? You're not adding anything. You're not doing anything constructive. Now that I have the kerem, and the lechi serves to function in a halachically viable way for the people in the vineyard, now it can work to already enclose an enclosed area. So in other words, it's no longer, once that water, even though I'm throwing water into the ocean, if that water could somehow, that drop, can do something for some other halachic area, then it can work to consider that I'm actually adding water to the ocean as well. So here too, I'm actually, it's viewed as being enclosing the Rechava for residential purposes once it did that for the people of the Kerem. But to start straight up, try to do it for the Rechava before you even have a Kerem, like let's say the Kerem wasn't there and I just want to close it with a Lechi, that wouldn't work, because a Lechi is not doing anything in this particular case, because I'm already enclosed. Okay, so Abaye right now is comfortable. He came up with a good pshat that says this is what you do, and if you put the lechi up, you're good to go. Amalei Rav says, no, you're not good to go. I don't like this pshat. I don't like your concept of how you're going to allow people to carry. Im Kain Rav says, back to the Gemara, Amalei Rav Im Kain Yomru Lechi Moed L'Shvil Shel Kramim, the Alma. Okay, people are not going to really be aware of the water. And they're going to say, if you have a typical vineyard that doesn't open to a riverbank, by putting the lechi at that far end, it's going to work as well. And it's going to be just as good. And that's not true. Because without the wall, the riverbank, you'd be missing a wall. And they would say two side enclosures and one enclosure at the end of the Rechava will be good enough to validate it. And that's not going to work. And therefore, Rava says, you know what? Even though halachically you're right, as far as what people are going to see and the interpretation people are going to make, that's going to be a problem. Let's take a look at Rashi. The Shvil Kram, the Alma. Let's say you have a vineyard road that does not end at the riverbank. It's right now you have something looking like a movim of foolish, open from two sides. And now all you're going to do v'yomru, okay, and people are going to say, so in order to carry on that road that's open from two sides, all I need is she'tzarach tikkun ela barosho echad kihai. I'm only going to need it like this. Apparently there was a diagram that Rashi showed us that isn't there right now. I guess they lost it. So, that's weiter. Okay, yeah. So this doesn't show us the problem, but the problem is obvious. The problem is that you're gonna not realize that there's a riverbank. You're only going to be open from three sides, and you're going to say, "All I got to do, open from two sides right now, and I'm going to just make a lechi on one of the sides, and that's going to be good enough." And that's not good enough. Okay, so we can't allow people to get confused.
I'm confused. So you put the lechi up.
Where's the third wall here? Where's the third legitimate wall in that diagram, Gary?
Yeah, which
By the vineyard. In the
Okay.
road of the vineyard, where's the third wall?
Okay, so we got the grapevines down below.
Right, parallel grapevines that are two walls.
Okay.
With your where's your
The
third?
lechi. Now, what's the issue?
Well, that lechi is not a wall. Lechi is just a little
but
post.
What's the issue? I'm trying to.
No, right now, the reason why that lechi works in Abaye's scenario is because you had a third enclosure of the riverbank.
Right.
So you had a real legitimate U,
Yes, I get that.
and then you put the lechi on top of the U.
Yeah.
Okay, but people are not going to see that bottom of the U because the riverbank is something that's not very noticeable.
Right.
It goes down. So people are going to say, "Oh, I was at the Bregman home last week in Stockton, okay, right near Lake whatever, and they
Westlake.
what
You were in Westlake last week.
Westlake, okay,
Right at the lake.
okay, and they're not going to recognize that there was a wall there, and it was simply two parallel walls. Gary put a lechi on one end of the parallel walls, and it was good to carry.
Oh, okay.
And he goes to Amajomi, so he has to know what's going on.
Yeah, think.
Okay, so and then, they're going to make it a very tragic mistake of thinking that parallel walls with a lechi work.
I got it. Okay.
Okay, and so therefore, in this particular case, since that bottom of the U is a very easy thing to forget about because there is a legitimate wall.
Yeah.
It's called a riverbank, but people are not going to recognize there was a riverbank there. They're going to make a mistake.
Yeah, but our solution of putting the wall on top of the wall would have worked it. Even though it's a redundant, it would still help us.
Okay, that's interesting. No, right. You just to avoid the problem, make a wall on top of the wall. Okay, that's
But the other problem is that when the camels come to drink, they're going to break that wall so they can drink.
okay. Well, it's interesting.
Or in Stockton, it'll be the cattle that'll come and they'll break the wall.
Okay, we got our whole Gemara going here. Okay, you guys are good. So let's see Rava's answer. Rava says, so your approach, Abaye, is unacceptable. It leads to too much confusion. So therefore, Rava will come up with another approach. And Rava does not pick your approach, maybe for Michael's reason. Let's see what Rava says. Back to the Gemara. Amar Rava, right? So therefore, Rava says, Avdin lechi lepischa demosa. Let's forget about the vineyard right now. Let's go back to Wilshire Boulevard, okay? And let's make an opening. Let's make a nice ches to Wilshire, which apparently had a wider. Right, you make sense that a mavi is wider than the vineyard road, and being as wide as it is, we're not worried about the camels knocking it over. So, okay, let's make a lechi to the opening of the city. The Rishus Harabim, Wilshire. The once it's going to work to close off the mavi from Rishus Harabim, so the people of the mavi are now going to be able to carry. Mani nami l'rechava. Okay, now it's the same migu concept, only in a different direction. Once it works to close off the mavui to Rishus Harabim.
That's the Tzuras HaPesach. Which diagram are we talking about here? Up there at the Rishus Harabim, up the Tzuras HaPesach.
Yeah, that's a Tzuras HaPesach. I mean, it's not a lechi.
Right.
Okay.
The lechi's on the left. It says lechi there.
Yeah,
right
but that's
by the
not where
water.
you're talking. You're talking about the lechi by the
Right.
Rishus Harabim.
No,
It's
it's
not
not
there.
It's Tzuras HaPesach.
Okay.
No.
Right. And the right.
There's
So
a
yeah.
lechi also on the
Right,
right.
no. Okay. Let me take that back. You already had that. That if you look back in the old diagrams, that ches was already there. You didn't make the ches.
Okay.
You're making the lechi right by the rechav. You see that little lechi by the rechav? That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
The ches was always there.
Yeah.
Okay, but you still couldn't carry. Okay, because the even though the mavi was closed off from Rishus Harabim, it wasn't closed off from the Carmelists of the rechava. Right, the rechava was the problem, not Wilshire.
Oh, okay.
So maybe I misspoke. So therefore, by making the lechi at the end of the mavi, which now helps the people of the mavi to carry because they are completely closed off on all four sides, the lechi being the fourth enclosure. Okay, so the same deal. Once it works for the people of the mavi, it'll work to also effectuate a new enclosure for the rechava, which is now hukah fladira.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Were we saying originally that the reason you couldn't carry in the Mavoi or in the Shviel is because it's open up to the Rechava?
Absolutely, that's what Rashi said very clearly. Yes.
But how's that possible? Because even without the Rechava, it's a Mavoi Mifolash.
No, you have the Tzuras HaPesach, not Mefulish. You have the Tzuras HaPesach.
It's Mifolash.
That's
I'm saying that source, but you have nothing on the other side.
okay. But remember, we had learned. Rashi said that when you have something open to a rechava, which is not a Carmelis, Okay.
Which is a karm. What?
In this case, it's a karmelis, so it messes you up. Had the rechava been an irrelevancy and just an empty lot, it would have been okay. It's because the rechava had a din of a karmelis that made it not okay. If the rechava would be able to be carried in its own right,
It's not because, but it's not because the rechava is oser.
yeah,
Right? It's because it's a mava mifulish.
no. I don't know. How is it foolish if it ends in a rechava with walls beautifully around it?
But there's no walls. It goes straight through.
Oh, what about those walls? What do you?
It's not walls. Those are breaches. It goes straight through.
That's less than 10 hours.
Yeah, less than 10 amas. They're not breaches.
So you're saying mava mifulish is if it's less than 10 amos, that's not considered mifulish.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Judas Pesach, right? Correct.
No, it's not a Pesach.
Even
Well,
though
it is a Pesach.
it is a
It's not
Pesach.
source of Pesach.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So let's see. So Rava's answer is let's work on the Wilshire side of things, not mamish by Wilshire, but we'll work for the people that are near Wilshire, and once it works for them, it'll work for this as well. Okay, let's see Rashi. The migu the mahani lamasa, that once it works for the people of the city, latalta b'mavi, k'damrinum perakama, like we said in Perakama. Sracha mikan or bika mikan. If you have a rishus ram on one side and a field on the other side, ozet source of pesach mikan v'lechi o kor mikan. In order to close it off from the two openings, right? Like it started, like Ephraim said, as a mavim of foolish. But by how do you close off a mavim of foolish? Where it's source of pesach on one side and a beam or a post from the other side. That's exactly what you're doing here. You have the Tzurza Pesach, you have the Ches up on top by Wilshire, you've got the Lechi on the bottom by the Rechava, and you're good. V'achanami, levdu b'rosh hamovay ha-pesuach l'shuzarab Tzurza Pesach. You make sure either you had it or you have to make sure you have it now. You have a Tzurza Pesach on the Wilshire side of things, okay, which is your ches, as you're looking at in diagram 95. And now the lechi on the side of the rechava will allow you to close off the mavi. The people in the mavi can come carry. Now that lechi became a halachically viable engine to put things in place, and once it puts it in place to allow you to carry inside the mavi, it's now able to sort of transition into being a viable force for the rechava as well. Okay, as much as you'd say, well, what am I really doing the Rechava? Same migu concept as we had before. So Rav and Abai don't really argue in fundamental principles. They just argue on, am I going to make a mistake and not realize that there's a riverbank there? That's the only issue. Okay, one second. V'chanami, here to love the brush of Mavi Absol Shizrab Tzuras Pesach Vaylechi Del Tzara Rechava Shayla. And right, you make a Tzuras Pesach on one side, you make a post on the other side, and that will matter it. Okay, that takes care of that. But what about, we have one other issue.
But before we put the lechi up, right?
Right.
Before we put the lechi up, you couldn't carry in that mavoi, no matter what was on the other side. Right?
Only because it wasn't closed off on the fourth side. You needed that lechi, right? Every mov
no matter what was on the other side, you couldn't use that mavoi. Right?
Correct.
No matter what was on the other side.
Well, no matter, yeah, right. No matter what right, it could have been closed with a brick metal wall if it's open on one side.
If it was Rishus HaYachid, right, on the other side of the mavoi. You couldn't.
What do you mean? You don't want if the Rechava had been like a no man's land, you would have been able to carry. Then you would have been able to carry. But
don't you need a mavi enclosed on all four sides?
Well, but the mavi goes into an area that's enclosed. That Rechava is enclosed. That Rechava has no openings. It's a completely enclosed area.
Even though the gap's there, it's not a gap.
It's not a big enough gap.
So it's like
because both
You can't carry from one to the other. So you have to have something
both gaps are less than 10 amos.
Correct.
Where's the end or the beginning?
Now, you're right. Now, there's the top gap doesn't count because you don't see the walls. So that's
what I was remembering. So that's what I'm saying.
But you're going into a place that's completely enclosed. Once you're in the Rechava, I'm completely enclosed. So I'm good.
I'm in the dark.
Okay,
I'm in the screen on dark, sorry.
Okay. So we have Baruch Hashem. So now we know what we can do. Question is how far this het is going to go. We'll have to pick that.
Problem carrying from one to the other, and you need the.
You need the
lechi
yes, right.
to designate where you have to stop. That's really designating your boundary. That's your
Right. So right now, all we know for sure is I can carry in the mavi, I can carry in the rechava.
Right.
But now, can I carry from one to the other? That you'll have to come back tomorrow. Okay.